among one of the great Irishmen, Sidney Barrett, you know.
Oh,
Well, he's,
We
no, it's not a person, it's a place.
okay. We are on live on Facebook now.
Okay.
And so let me just tell the folks that may watch this video later that we are in the final pages once again of Ulysses. So we're going to finish those up. We actually only have about 11 pages to read.
Yeah.
We will have plenty of time to discuss anything we want to about the entire book.
I can't see everybody.
Mhm.
I
Can you see me?
I had a conversation with Hilaria, and I was trying to persuade her to join us tonight.
Mhm.
She's not here. I can't see who's
No,
here.
no, she's not.
Not here. No.
I said to her, and we'd let her read the last lines in
Oh,
Italian.
yes.
Yep. Okay. Well, many are called.
But when you talk to her again, tell her we really need her back. I miss her.
I know we met. I actually got to meet her in Trieste, and then she came to Dublin, and I met her again.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I know she's out and about. She did respond to a Japanese painting that I had posted on Facebook today. So yeah, but she's busy, and it is the holiday season, and so it is. So, like I said, we're finishing up these last pages. We'll probably finish the reading a little bit earlier, and we can have as much discussion or as little discussion as we want at the end of that. Everybody sees the chat?
Yes.
Does everybody know where we are?
I don't know where I am.
For the first time, Duncan, I tried your system of looking at where you have everything posted on Facebook. So thank you. That's very helpful to know what line we're on and so on.
That's great. Okay.
Oh, I don't know if okay. I mightn't see. Anyway. I'm trying to get in on my other thing. But who's Dave?
Yeah, that's me. You can't see me, and maybe that's a good thing. But yeah, I'm coming to you from Western Canada.
All right.
The wilds of Canada.
That's right, exactly.
Saskatoon. Okay, let us begin. So, and I'm going to start with, where am I going to start?
I think we're at about 11:49 in the Gabbler.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, I know where we are. I'm just trying to pick it. So, oh, how the waters come down at Lahore. Who knows? Is there anything the matter with my insides? Or have I got something growing in me? Getting that thing like that every week. When was it last? I'm with Monday. Yes.
Yes.
It's only about 3 weeks. I have to go to the doctor. Only it would be like before I married him, when I had that white thing coming out of me. And Chloe made me go to that dry old stick, Dr. Collins for women's diseases on Pembroke Road. Your vagina, he called it. I suppose that's how he got all the gilt mirrors and carpets, getting round those rich ones off Stephen's Green, running up to him for every little fiddle-faddle, her vagina and her Cochin china. They've money, of course, so they're all right. I wouldn't marry him, not if he was the last man in the world. Besides, there's something queer about their children. Always smelling around those filthy bitches all insides, asking me if what I did had an offensive odor. What did he want me to do? But the only thing, gold. Maybe. What a question. If I smattered it all over his wrinkly old face for him, with all of my compliment. I suppose he'd know then. And could you pass it easily? What I thought he was talking about the Rock of Gibraltar, the way he put it. That's a nice invention, too. By the way, only I like letting myself down in the hole as far as I can squeeze and pull the chain. Then to flush it, nice, cool pens and needles. Still, there's something in it, I suppose. I always used to know by Millie's, when she was a child, whether she had worms or not. Still, all the same, paying him for that. How much is that, doctor? 1 guinea, please. And asking me, had I frequent omissions? Where do those old fellows get all those words? They have omissions, with his short-sighted eyes on me cocked sideways. Next, Jane.
I wouldn't trust him too far to give me chloroform or God knows what else. Still, I liked him when he sat down to write the thing out, frowning so severe, his nose intelligent like that. You be damned, you lying strap. Oh, anything, no matter who, except an idiot. He was clever enough to spot that, of course. That was all thinking of him and his mad, crazy letters. My precious one. Everything connected with your glorious body, everything underlined that comes from it is a thing of beauty and of joy. Forever something he got out of some nonsensical book that he had me always at myself 4 or 5 times a day sometimes. And I said I hadn't. Are you sure? Oh, yes, I said. I'm quite sure. In a way, that shut him up. I knew what was coming next. Only natural weakness it was. He excited me. I don't know how. The first night ever we met, when I was living in Rehoboth Terrace, we stood staring at one another for about 10 minutes, as if we met somewhere. I suppose on account of my being Jewish looking after my mother. He used to amuse me, the things he said, with the half-sleuthering smile on him, and all the Doyles said he was going to stand for a member of Parliament. Oh, wasn't I the born fool to believe all his blather about Home Rule and the Land League, sending me that long strule of a song out of the Huguenots to sing in French, to be more classy, Au beau pays de la Touraine, that I never even sang once, explaining and rigmaroling about religion and persecution. He won't let you enjoy anything naturally. Then, mighty as a great favor, the very first opportunity he got a chance in Brighton Square, running into my bedroom, pretending the ink he got on his hands to wash it off with the Albion milk and sulfur soap I used to use, and the gelatin still round it. Next, please.
Oh, I laughed myself sick at him that day. I'd better not make an all-night sitting on this affair. They ought to make chambers a natural size, so that a woman could sit on it properly. He kneels down to do it. I suppose there isn't in all creation another man with the habits he has. Look at the way he's sleeping at the foot of the bed. How can he without a hard bolster? It's well he doesn't kick, or he might knock out all my teeth. Breathing with his hand on his nose like that Indian god he took me to show one wet Sunday in the museum in Kildare Street, all yellow in a pinafore, lying on his side, on his hand, with his 10 toes sticking out, that he said was a bigger religion than the Jews and our lords both put together, all over Asia, imitating him, as he's always imitating everybody. I suppose he used to sleep at the foot of the bed too, with his big square feet up in his wife's mouth. Damn this stinking thing anyway. Where's this, those napkins? Ah, yes, I know. I hope the old press doesn't creak. Ah, I knew it would. He's sleeping hard at a good time somewhere. Still, she must have given him great value for his money. Of course, he has to pay for it from her. Oh, this nuisance of a thing. I hope they'll have something better for us in the other world. Tying ourselves up. God help us. That's all right for tonight. Now, the lumpy old jingly bed that always reminds me of old Cohen. I suppose he scratched himself in it often enough. And he thinks father bought it from Lord Napier that I used to admire when I was a little girl, because I told him, easy, piano. Oh, I like my bed. God, here we are as bad as ever after 16 years. How many houses were we in at all? Next, please.
Raymond Terrace and Ontario Terrace, Lombard Street and Hollis Street. And he goes about wishing every time we're on the run against the Huguenots, or the frogs march pretending to help the men with our 4 sticks of furniture. And then the City Arms Hotel, worse and worse, says Warden Daly. That charming place on the landing was always somebody inside praying and leaving all their stinks after them. Always know who was in there, always know who was in there last. Every time we're just getting on right, something happens, or he puts his big foot in it. Thomas and Healy's, Mr. Cuffs and Journeys, either he's going to be run into prison over his lottery tickets, that was all to be our salvation, or he goes and gives impudence. We'll have him coming home soon, out of the Freeman too. He makes it. Then we'll see if that little man he showed me dribbling along in the wet all by himself round by Cody's lanes will give him much consolation. That he says he is so capable and sincerely Irish. He is indeed judging by the sincerity of the trousers I saw on him. Wait, there's George's church bells. Wait, 3/4 the hour. 1. Wait, 2 o'clock. Well, that's a nice hour of the night for him to be coming home at. To anybody climbing down into the area, as if anybody saw him. I'll knock him off that little habit tomorrow. First, I'll look at his shirt to see, or I'll see if he has that French letter still in his pocketbook. I suppose he thinks I don't know deceitful men. All their 20 pockets aren't enough for their lies. Then why should we tell them, even if it's the truth? They don't believe you. Then tucked up in bed like those babies in the Aristocrat's masterpiece. He brought me another time, as if we hadn't enough of that in real life, without some old aristocrats or whatever his name is, disgusting you more with those rotten pictures. Children with 2 heads and no legs. That's the kind of villainy they're always driven about, with not another thing in their empty heads. They ought to get slow poison, the half of them, then tea and toast for him, buttered on both sides, and new-laid eggs. I suppose I'm nothing anymore, when I wouldn't let him lick me in Hollis Street one night. Man, tyrant as ever. For the one thing, he slept on the floor half the night naked. The way the Jews used when somebody dies belonged to them, and wouldn't eat any breakfast, or speak a word, wanted to be petted. So I thought, I stood out enough for one time and let him. Next.
He does it all wrong too, thinking only of his own pleasure. His tongue is too flat, or I don't know what. He forgets that Weathen. I don't. I'll make him do it again if he doesn't mind himself, and lock him down to sleep in the coal cellar with the black beetles. I wonder, was it her Josie off her head with my cast-offs? He's such a born liar too. No, he'd never have the courage with a married woman. That's why he wants me and Boylan. Though as for her Dennis, as she calls him, that forlorn-looking spectacle, you couldn't call him a husband. Yes, some little bitch he's got in with. Even when I was with him with Millie at the college races, that hornblower with the child's bonnet on the top of his knob led us into by the back way. He was throwing his sheep's eyes at those two, doing skirt duty up and down. I tried to wink at him first. No use, of course. And that's the way his money goes. This is the fruit of Mr. Paddy Dingnam. Yes, they were all in great style at the grand funeral in the paper. Boylan brought in. If they saw a real officer's funeral, that'd be something. Reversed arms, muffled drums, the poor horse walking behind in black. El Boom and Tom Kernan, that drunken little barrelly man that bit his tongue off falling down the men's WC, drunk in some place or other, and Martin Cunningham, and the 2 Deadlesses, and Fanny McCoy's husband, white-headed cabbage, skinny thing, with a turn in her eye, trying to sing my songs. She'd want to be born all over again in her old green dress with a low neck. She can't attract them any other way, like dabbling on a rainy day. I see it all now plainly, and they call that friendship. Killing and then burying one another, and they all with their wives and families at home, more especially. Jack Power keeping that barmaid. He does, of course. His wife is always sick or going to be sick or just getting better of it. He's a good-looking man, though he's getting a bit gray over the ears. They're a nice lot, all of them. Well, they're not going to get my husband again into their clutches if I can help it. Making fun of him then behind his back. I know well when he goes on with his idiotics, because he has some sense. He has sense enough not to squander every penny piece he earns down their gullets, and looks after his family and family good for nothings. Poor Paddy Dignam. All the same, I'm sorry in a way for him. What are his wife and 5 children going to do? Unless he was insured, comical little teetotum, always stuck up in some pub corner, and her or her son waiting, Bill Bailey, won't you please come home? Her widow's weeds won't improve her appearance. They're awfully becoming, though, if you're good looking. What men wasn't he? Yes, he was at the Glencree dinner, and Ben Dollard bass baritone the night he borrowed his swallowtail to sing out of in Hollis Street, squeezed and squashed into them and grinning all over, his big dolly face like a well-whipped child's body. Didn't he look a balmy bollocks? Sure enough, that must have been a spectacle on the stage. Imagine paying 5 shillings? Is that the sign for shillings?
Yeah.
Okay, imagine paying 5 shillings in the preserved seats for that, to see him trotting off in his trowlers, and Simon Dedalus too. He was always turning up half screwed, singing the second verse first. The old love is the new was one of his, so sweetly sang the maiden on the hawthorn bough. He was always on for flirting too. When I sang Martana with him at Freddie Mayer's private opera, he had a delicious, glorious voice. Phoebe dearest, goodbye, sweetheart, sweetheart. He always sang it, not like Bartell D'Arcy, sweet tart. If someone could take over, please.
Mm-hmm.
Of course. Is it me? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he had the gift of the voice. So there was no art in it. All over you, like a warm shower bath. Oh, Maritana, Wildwood Flower, we sang splendidly. Though it was a bit too high for my register, even transposed. And he was married at the time to May Golding. But then he'd say or do something to knock the good out of it. He's a widower now. I wonder what sort is his son. He says he's an author and going to be a university professor of Italian. And I'm to take lessons. What he's driving at now, showing him my photo, is not good of me. I ought to have got it taken in drapery that never looks out of fashion. Still, I look young in it. I wonder if he didn't make him a present of it altogether. And me too, after all. Why not? I saw him driving down to the Kingsbridge station with his father and mother. I was in mourning. That's 11 years ago now. Yes, he'd be 11 now. So what the good in going into mourning for what was neither one thing nor the other? The first cry was enough for me. I heard the death watch 2 tickling in the wall. Of course, he insisted he'd go into mourning for the cat. I suppose he's a man now by this time. He was an innocent boy then, and a darling little fellow in his Lord Fauntleroy suit and curly hair like a prince on the stage when I saw him at Matt Dillon's. He liked me too. I remember they all do. Wait, by God. Yes. Wait. Yes. Hold on. He was on the cards that morning when I laid out the deck union. with a younger stranger, neither dark or fair. You met before. I thought it was him, but he's no chicken, nor a stranger, or a stranger either. Besides, my fate turned the other way. What was the seventh card after that? The 10 of spades for a journey by land. And then there was a letter on its way, and scandals too. The 3 queens and the 8 of diamonds for a rise in society. Yes, wait, it all came out. And 2 red 8s for new garments. Look at that. And didn't I dream something too? Yes, there was something about poetry in it. I hope he hasn't long, greasy hair hanging in his eyes or standing up like a red Indian. What do they go about like that for? Only getting themselves and their poetry laughed at. I always liked poetry when I was a girl first. Thought he was a poet like Lord Byron, and not an ounce of it in his composition. I thought he was quite different. I wonder, is he too young? He's about 88. I was married 88. Millie is 15 yesterday. 89. What age was he? Then at Dylan's 5 and 6. About 88, I suppose. He's 20 or more. I'm not too old for him. Next.
If he's 23 or 24, I hope he's not that stuck-up university student sort. No, otherwise he wouldn't go sitting down in the old kitchen with him, taking Epps cocoa and talking. Of course he pretended to understand it all. Probably he told him he was out of Trinity College. He's very young to be a professor. I hope he's not a professor like Goodwin was. He was a potent professor of John Jameson. They all write about some woman in their poetry. Well, I suppose he won't find many like me, where softly sighs of love, the light guitar, where poetry is in the air, the blue sea and the moon shining so beautifully, coming back on the night boat from Tarifa, the lighthouse at Europa Point. The guitar that fellow played was so expressive. Will I ever go back there again? All new faces, 2 glancing eyes, a lattice hid. I'll sing that for him. They're my eyes, if he's anything of a poet. 2 eyes as darkly bright as love's own star. Aren't those beautiful words? As love's young star. It'll be a change, the Lord knows, to have an intelligent person to talk about it yourself. To talk to about yourself, not always listening to him and Billy Prescott's ad and Keyes's ad and Tom the Devil's ad. And then if anything goes wrong in their business, we have to suffer. I'm sure he's very distinguished. I'd like to meet a man like that. God, not those other ruck. Besides, he's young. Those fine young men I see down in the Market Strand bathing place from the side of the rock, standing up in the sun, naked like a god or something, and then plunging into the sea with them. Why aren't all men like that? There'd be some consolation for a woman like that lovely little statue he bought. I could look at him all day long, curly head, and his shoulders, his finger up for you to listen. There's real beauty in poetry for you. I often felt I wanted to kiss him all over, also his lovely young cock. They're so simple I wouldn't mind taking him in my mouth if nobody was looking, as if it was asking you to suck it. So clean and white, he looks down with his boyish face. I would too in half a minute, even if some of it went down. What? It's only like gruel or the Jew. There's no danger besides he'd be so clean compared with those pigs of men. I suppose never dream of washing it from one year's end to the other, the most of them. Only that's what gives the woman the mustaches. I'm sure it'll be grand if I can only get in with a handsome young poet at my age. I'll throw them the first thing in the morning until I see the wish card comes out, or I'll try pairing the lady herself and see if he comes out. I'll read and study all I can find or learn a bit off by heart if I knew who he likes, so he won't think me stupid if he thinks all women are the same, and I can teach him the other part. I'll make him feel all over him till he half faints under me. Then he'll write about my lover and mistress publicly too, with our photograph in all the papers when he becomes famous. Oh, but then what am I going to do about him, though? Next, please.
No, that's no way for him. Has he no manners, nor no refinement, nor no nothing in his nature? Slapping us behind like that on my bottom because I didn't call him Hugh, the ignoramus that doesn't know poetry from a cabbage. That's what you get for not keeping them in their proper place. Pulling off his shoes and trousers there on the chair before me, so barefaced, without even asking permission, and standing out that vulgar way in half of a shirt they wear, to be admired like a priest or a butcher, or those old hypocrites in the time of Julius Caesar. Of course, he's right enough in his way to pass the time as a joke, sure as you might as well be in bed with a lion god. I'm sure he'd have something better to say for himself. An old lion. Would. Oh well, I suppose it's because they're so plump and tempting in my short petticoat. He couldn't resist. Though I excite myself sometime. It's well for men, all the amount of pleasure they get off a woman's body. We're so round and white for them. Always, I wish I was one myself for a change, just to try the thing. Yeah, that's swelling upon you so hard and at the same time so soft when you touch it. My Uncle John, he had a thing long. I heard those corner boys saying, passing the corner of Marrowbone Lane. My Aunt Mary has a thing hairy because it was dark and they knew a girl was passing. It didn't make me blush. Why should it? Either it's only nature and he puts his thing long into my Aunt Mary's hairy, etc., and turns out to be you put the handle on the sweeping brush men. Again, all over they can pick up and choose what they please, a married woman, or a fast widow, or a girl for their different taste. Like those houses round Irish. No, we're to be always chained up. We're not going to be chaining me up. No damn fear. Once I start. I tell you, for stupid husband's jealousy, why can't we all remain friends over it instead of quarreling? Her husband found it out. What they did, well, naturally. And if he did, can he undo it? He's Coronado anyway. Whatever he does. And then when he goes to the other mad extreme about the wife and the fair tyrants, of course, the man never even cast a second thought on the husband or wife. Either it's the woman he wants, or he gets what else were we given all those desires? For I'd like to know. I can't help it if I'm young still. Can I? It's a wonder I'm not an old shriveled hag before my time, living with him. So cold, never embracing me, except sometimes when he's asleep. The wrong end of me. Next.
Not knowing, I suppose, who he has. Any man that kiss a woman's bottom, I'd throw my hat at him after that. He'd kiss anything unnatural where we haven't one atom of any kind of expression in us, all of us, the same 2 lumps of lard. Before I ever do that to a man, phew, the dirty brutes, the mere thought is enough. I kissed the feet of you, senorita. There's some sense in that. Didn't he kiss our hall door? Yes, he did. What a madman. Nobody understands his cracked ideas but me. Still, of course, a woman wants to be embraced 20 times a day almost to make her look young, no matter by who, so long as to be in love or loved by somebody. If the fellow you want isn't there, sometimes, by the Lord God, I was thinking, would I go round by the quays there some dark evening where nobody'd know me and pick up a sailor off the sea that'd be hot on for it and not care a pin whose I was, only to do it off up in a gate somewhere? Or one of those wild-looking gypsies in Rathfarnham had their camp pitched near the Bloomfield Laundry to try and steal our things if they could. I only sent mine there a few times for the name Model Laundry, sending me back over and over some old ones, old stockings. That blackguard-looking fellow with the fine eyes, feeling a switch, attacked me in the dark and ride me up against the wall without a word. Or a murderer, anybody, but they do themselves the fine gentlemen in their silk hats. That KC lives up somewhere this way, coming out of Hardwick Lane. The night he gave us the fish supper on account of winning over the boxing match. Of course it was for me he gave it. I knew him by his gaiters and the walk. And when I turned round a minute after, just to see, there was a woman after coming out of it too, some filthy prostitute. Then he goes home to his wife after that. Only I suppose the half of those sailors are rotten again with disease. Oh, move over your big carcass out of that, for the love of Mike. Listen to him, the winds that waft my seas to thee, so well he may sleep and sigh. The great suggester, Don Poldo de la Flora, if he knew how he came out of the cards this morning, he'd have something to sigh for a dark man in some perplexity between 2 sevens, 2 in prison, for Lord knows what he does. That I don't know, and I'm to be slouching around down in the kitchen to get his lordship his breakfast while he's rolled up like a mummy. Next, please.
Will I indeed? Did you ever see me running? I'd just like to see myself at it. Show them attention, and they treat you like dirt. I don't care what anybody says. It'd be much better for the world to be governed by the women in it. You wouldn't see the women going and killing one another and slaughtering. When do you ever see women rolling around drunk like they do, or gambling every penny they have and losing it on horses? Yes, because a woman, whatever she does, she knows where to stop. Sure, they wouldn't be in the world at all only for us. They don't know what it is to be a woman and a mother. How could they? Where would they all of them be if they hadn't all a mother to look after them? What I never had. That's why I suppose he's running wild now, out at night, away from his books and studies, and not living at home on account of the usual rowdy house, I suppose. Well, it's a poor case that those that have a fine son like that are not satisfied. And I none. Was he not able to make one? It wasn't my fault. We came together while I was watching the 2 dogs up in her behind in the middle of the naked street that disheartened me altogether. I suppose I oughtn't to have buried him in that little woolly jacket. I knitted crying as I was, but give it to some poor child. But I knew I'd never have another. Our first death, too. It was. We were never the same since. Oh, I'm not going to think myself into the glooms about that anymore. I wonder why he wouldn't stay the night. I felt all the time it was somebody strange he brought in, instead of roving round the city, meeting God knows who, night walkers and pickpockets. His poor mother wouldn't like that if she was alive, ruining himself for life, perhaps. Still, it's a lovely hour, so silent. I used to love coming home after dances, the air of the night. They have friends they can talk to. We've none either. Either he wants what he won't get, or it's some woman ready to stick her knife in you. I hate that in women. No wonder they treat us the way they do. We're a dreadful lot of bitches, I suppose. It's all the troubles we have makes us so snappy. I'm not like that. He could easy have slept in there on the sofa in the other room. I suppose he was as shy as a boy. He's being so young, hardly 20, with me in the next room. He'd have heard me on the chamber. Ah, what harm, Dedalus? I wonder. It's like those names in Gibraltar. De la Plaz, de la Grazia. They had the devil's queer names there. Father Vial, Plan of Santa Maria, that gave me the Rosy. Rosale O'Reilly in the Caile Las Siete Revoltas at Pisimbo, and Mrs. Opisso in Governor Street. Oh, what a name! I'd go and drown myself in the first river if I had a name like her. Those.
Oh my. And all the bits of streets, Paradise Ramp and Bedlam Ramp and Rogers Ramp and Cratchit's Ramp and the Devil's Gap Steps. Well, small blame to me if I am a harum-scarum. I know I am a bit. I declare to God, I don't feel a day older than then. I wonder, would I get my tongue round any of the Spanish como está usted muy buen, gracias y usted? See, I haven't forgotten it all. Thought I had, only for the grammar. A noun is the name of a person, place, or thing. Pity I never tried to read that novel, Cantankerous Mrs. Rubio lent me, by Valera, with the question in it all upside down, the two ways. I always knew he'd go away in the end. I can tell him the Spanish, and he tell me the Italian. Then he'll see I'm not so ignorant. What a pity he didn't stay. I'm sure the poor fellow was dead tired and wanted a good sleep badly. I could have brought him in his breakfast in bed with a bit of toast, so long as I didn't do it on the knife for bad luck. Or if the woman was going her rounds with the watercress, something nice and tasty. There are a few olives in the kitchen you might like. I never could bear the look of them in Abrines. I could do the criada. The room looks all right since I changed it the other way. You see, something was telling me all the time I'd have to introduce myself, not knowing me from Adam. Very funny, wouldn't it? I'm his wife, or pretend we were in Spain with him, half awake, without a God's notion where he is. Dos huevos estrelladas, senor. Lord, the cracked things come into my head sometimes. It'd be great fun supposing he stayed with us. Why not? There's the room upstairs empty and Millie's bed in the back room. He could do his writing and studies at the table in there for all the scribbling he does at it. And if he wants to read in bed in the morning, like me, as he's making the breakfast for one, we can make it for two. I'm sure I'm not going to take in lodgers off the street for him if he takes a gazebo of a house like this. I'd love to have a long talk with an intelligent, well-educated person. I'd have to get a nice pair of red slippers, like those Turks with the fez used to sell, or yellow, and a nice semi-transparent morning gown. That I badly want. Or a peach blossom dressing jacket, like the one that long ago in Walpole's only 8 and 6 or 18 and 6. I'll just give him one more chance. I'll get up early in the morning. I'm sick of calling so bad. In any case, I might go over to the markets to see all the vegetables and cabbages and tomatoes and carrots and all kinds of splendid fruits, all coming in lovely and fresh. Who knows who'd be the first man I'd beat? They're out looking for it in the morning. Mammy Dillon used to say they are. And the night, too. That was her mass going. I'd love a big, juicy pear now to melt in your mouth, like when I used to be in the longing way. And I'll throw him up his eggs and tea in a mustache cup she gave him to make his mouth bigger. I suppose he'd like my nice cream, too. I know what I'll do. I'll go about rather gay, not too much singing, a bit now and then ma fa pietomasetto. Then I'll start dressing myself to go out. Presto non son più forte. I'll put on my best shift and drawers. Let him have a good eyeful of that to make his Mickey stand for him. Next.
I'll let him know, if that's what he wanted, that his wife is fucked, yes, and damn well fucked too. Up to my neck nearly. Not by him. 5 or 6 times, hand running. There's the mark of his spunk on the clean sheet. I wouldn't bother to even iron it out. That ought to satisfy him. If you don't believe me, feel my belly. Unless I made him stand there and put him into me, I have a mind to tell him every scrap and make him do it in front of me. Serve him right. It's all his own fault if I'm an adulteress. As the thing in the gallery said, oh, much about it, if that's all the harm we ever did in this vale of tears. God knows it's not much. Doesn't everybody, only they hide it. I suppose that's what a woman is supposed to be there for, or he wouldn't have made us the way he did. So attractive to men. Then if he wants to kiss my bottom, I'll drag open my drawers and bulge it right out in his face, as large as life. He can stick his tongue 7 miles up my hole as he's there, my brown part. Then I'll tell him I want £1 or perhaps 30 shillings. I'll tell him I want to buy underclothes. Then if he gives me that, well, he won't be too bad. I don't want to soak it all out of him like the other women do. I could often have written out a fine check for myself and write his name on it for a couple of pounds. A few times he forgot to lock it up. Besides, he won't spend it. I'll let him do it off on me, provided he doesn't smear all my good drawers. Oh, I suppose that can't be helped. I'll do the indifferent, 1 or 2 questions. I'll know by the answers. When he's like that, he can't keep a thing back. I know every turn in him. I'll tighten my bottom, well, and let out a few smutty words, smell rump or lick my shit or the first mad thing comes into my head. Then I'll suggest about, yes, well, wait now, Sonny, my turn is coming. I'll be quite gay and friendly over it. Oh, but I was forgetting this bloody pest of a thing. Poof. You wouldn't know which to laugh or cry. We're such a mixture of plum and apple. No, I'll have to wear the old things. So much the better. It'll be more pointed. He'll never know whether he did it or not. There, that's good enough for you, any old thing at all. Then I'll wipe him off me, just like a business. His omission. Then I'll go out. I'll have him eyeing up at the ceiling. Where's she gone now? Make him want me. That's the only way. A quarter after. What an unearthly hour. I suppose they're just getting up in China now, combing out their pigtails for the day. We'll soon have the nuns ringing out the Angelus. They've nobody coming in to spoil their sleep except the odd priest or two for his night office, or the alarm clock next door at cockshout, clattering the brains out of itself. Let me see if I can doze off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What kind of flowers are those they've invented like the stars? The wallpaper in Lombard Street was much nicer. The apron he gave me was like that. Something, only I wore it twice. Better lower this lamp and try again, so as I can get up early. I'll go to Lamb's there beside Findlater's and get them to send us flowers to put about the place in case he brings them home tomorrow. Today, I mean. No. Friday's an unlucky day. First, I want to do the place up. Some way, the dust grows in it. I think while I'm asleep. Then we can have music and cigarettes. I can accompany him. First, I must clean the keys of the piano with milk. What'll I wear? Shall I wear a white rose or those fairy cakes and Liptons? I love the smell of a rich big shop at 7.5 pence a pound, or the other ones with the cherries in them and the pinky sugar, 11 pence. A couple of pounds of those, a nice plant for the middle of the table. I'd get that cheaper. And wait, where's this? I saw them not long ago. I'd love flowers. I'd love to have the whole place swimming in roses. God of heaven, there's nothing like nature. The wild mountains, then the sea, the waves rushing, then the beautiful country with the fields of oats and wheat and all kinds of things, and all the fine cattle going about. That would do your heart good to see rivers and lakes and flowers, all sorts of shapes and smells and colors springing up, even out of the ditches, primroses and violets. Violets. Nature it is. As for them saying there's no God, I wouldn't give a snap of my 2 fingers for all their learning. Why don't they go and create something? I often asked him. Next, please.
I often asked him, idiots, or whatever they call themselves, go and wash the cobbles off themselves first. Then they go howling for the priest, and they dying. And why? Why? Because they're afraid of hell on account of their bad conscience. Ah, yes. I know them well. Who was the first person in the universe before there was anybody that made it? All who are that they don't know, neither do I. So there you are. They might as well try and stop the sun from rising tomorrow. And the sun shines for you today, he said. The day we were lying among the rhododendrons on Howth Head, in the grey tweed suit and his straw hat. The day I got him to propose to me. Yes. First, he gave me that bit of seed cake out of my mouth. And it was a leap year, like now. Yes, 16 years ago. My God, after that long kiss, I near lost my breath. Yes, he said I was the flower of the mountain. Yes. So we are flowers, all a woman's body. Yes. That was 1, 2 thing he said in his life. And the sun shines for you today. Yes. That's why I liked him, because I saw he understood or felt what a woman is. And I knew I could always get round him. And I gave him all the pleasure I could, leading him on, till he asked me to say yes. And I wouldn't answer first, only looked out over the sea and the sky. I was thinking of so many things. He didn't know of Mulvey and Mr. Stanhope and Hester and father and old Captain Groves and the sailors playing All Birds Fly. And I say swoop. I say stoop, and washing up the dishes, they called it, on the pier. Next.
And the sentry in front of the governor's house with the thing around his white helmet, poor devil, half roasted, and the Spanish girls laughing in their shawls and their tall combs, and the auctions in the morning, the Greeks and the Jews and the Arabs, and the devil knows who else from all the ends of Europe and Duke Street, and the fowl market all clucking outside Larby Sharon's, and the poor donkeys slipping half asleep, and the vague fellows in the cloaks asleep in the shade of the steps, and the big wheels of the carts of the bulls, and the old castle, thousands of years old, yes, and those handsome Moors, all in white and turbans like kings, asking you to sit down in their little bit of a shop, and Rhonda with the old window of the posada, 2 glancing eyes, a lattice hid for her lover to kiss the iron, and the wine shops half open at night, and the castanets, and the night we missed the boat at Algeciras, the watchman going about serene with his lamps, and oh, that awful deep down torrent, oh, and the sea crimson sometimes like the fire, and the glorious sunsets, and the fig trees in the Alameda gardens, yes, and all the queer little streets and pink and blue and yellow houses, and the rose gardens and the jasmine and geraniums and cactuses and Gibraltar as a girl where I was a flower of the mountains, yes, when I put the rose in my hair like the Andalusian girls used, or shall I wear red? Yes, and how he kissed me under the Moorish wall, and I thought, well, as well him as another, and then I asked him with my eyes to ask again, yes, And then he asked me would I yes to say yes, my mountain flower. And first I put my arms around him, yes, and drew him down to me so that he could feel my breasts all perfume, yes. And his heart was going like mad. And yes, I said, yes, I will, yes.
Hmm.
Bravo.
Yes, bravo. Well
That was
done.
good, Katrina. That was
Well,
good.
yeah.
That was great, Katrina.
Yeah. That's
was
the
fun.
preference. Yeah, I like that. I like when people read it like that. Instead of just getting louder and more excited with each yes, saying all perfume, yes. And start going like mad and yes.
Mhm.
I said, yes, I will. Yes. Just a little more definite on the last one. I think that's more reflective
Mhm.
than the girls in Sweeney's that would come by once a year to roll on the floor and scream, yes, yes, yes,
Ah,
Well, she is, I think, descending into sleep at this particular
mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and it's actually these memories and the rhythm that's kind of lulling her.
And it's
Yeah.
part of a process that starts. That's sentence 8, and just at the end of sentence 7, there's a sudden, oh, but what would I do with him? She's thinking about Stephen, and then she's, what did I do about Bloom? And then suddenly 5 no's, no's to Boylan, one after the other. No, he shouldn't have done this. No, he has no poetry in him. Taking off his shoes and trousers. No, 5 no's.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the echo to that, where she says yes to Bloom. So that's the way I see it now. Other people
Yeah,
see
thank
things.
you. I like that.
Yeah.
Joe, I missed. Sorry, is she talking about Boylan? Sorry, she's talking about, because I wondered, does she never talk about Boylan? Oh,
She
Oh,
does.
yeah.
yeah.
When she says, because I wouldn't call him Hugh, or I called him Hugh. That's
Yeah,
that one starts.
Hugh Boylan. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What numbers? What numbers are that? I've got numbers.
Let me see. Let's see. Are you doing the Gabler?
Yeah,
All
yes.
right, let's
About
see what views are.
1368.
Yeah, 1368.
Yeah.
1368.
It's the one that begins, the sentence begins, no, that's no way for him.
Yeah, that's
The
it,
last
Joe.
sentence, as they call these things, sentences.
1368.
Yeah. No, that's no way for him. And Boylan has been winning her argument with herself up to this.
Mhm.
And then she thinks, in a way, Bloom's plan works. Stephen distracts her. She says, I wasn't being a poet.
Right.
I could learn poetry. I could. It's just as easy for him to do 2 breakfasts as one, And then suddenly she comes back with a no. But what would I do with Bloom? No. And the rest of it then. But Boylan makes a bit of a comeback halfway through the sentence. But she's a character. Personally, I'd love to sit beside her at a party, but I'm not sure I'd be like to be married to her.
But this whole last part is so wonderfully ambiguous.
Oh yes.
Because she's talking about the Moorish Wall, and she's talking about Gibraltar, and she's talking about Algeciras. Well, Bloom was, as far as I know, Bloom was never in any of those parts. This is some mixed up thing.
Yeah, you could put up a great argument that she's actually thinking of Gardner here. The man who died in the war and in South Africa. You can, but it kind of, you can kick it around a bit, but you can never really win with it.
Right. You can't get, but I think part of the winning part is it's really kind of an argument. We live our life in fantasies, in memory.
I can't quite hear you.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're losing you.
Hold on. I know what happened. Sorry.
Oh, there you go. I thought it
I'm
was
sorry.
me.
I'm sorry. I took my coat off and my microphone was attached to it. But I mean, really, if you, as I analyze this part, and I've got a lot of
Yeah.
enjoyable work to do over the years on all of this. But you know, best moments in all of this monologue is when she drifts into fantasy,
Mm,
memory.
mm,
That's really where she's getting her chief joy from, it seems to me. Just like you know, we had that with Bloom to a certain extent. He lives his life in fantasy, and you
mm,
know,
mm.
that whole thing in Ithaca about the house in the country and the blah blah blah,
Oh, yes,
and on
yes.
and on and on. Um,
Mm,
so it's interesting, and the actual daily facts of life, the actual dealing with Boylan, the actually dealing with Bloom,
mm,
and you know, is a little harsh and a little rough.
mm,
So it's kind of amazing as I parse this last part here, because so much of it is some blend of fantasy and memory.
mm, mm.
But I need to get rid of this. Yeah. But great reading, everybody. Really good reading.
We actually learn a huge amount about the novel in these last few pages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and this is the you know, the way what's her name, Penelope, unravels the funeral garment of
Oh,
her
yeah.
father-in-law at
Yeah.
night. Well,
Right.
that's been sewn during the day
Mm.
as we read, and here's Penelope unraveling the garment that we've read during the day and filling it also. Like, for a start, Bloom, she's probably more Jewish than Bloom. Bloom can't be Jewish because his mother was not Jewish, but it turns out her mother was. So you know, this is a complete about turn for the reader.
Hmm.
So
But did she say she didn't have a mother somewhere in it?
oh, she does, yeah. She did, but obviously she had a mother, and she
Yeah.
did. But the mother seems to have left while she was a child. We never get the story. She says, yeah, she said that one point. I never had a mother, meaning she was never properly mothered. And then she says the Bloom never knew anything about my mother. You know, he didn't tell. She didn't tell him the story. But she seems to have gone walkabout at an early stage.
Hmm.
It's, like, it's a massive emotional thing she's carrying. You know, like, she's just an amazing character.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was
And
looking
is she talking about their child then, about all that stuff? Is she doing that stuff about Rudy?
Yeah,
there was
Yeah.
a lot about Rudy in there. Yeah.
Rudy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And mourning, and you know, there was mixed up stuff in that about.
She talked about putting him in a sweater or knitting something for him.
Yeah,
And then she thinks,
the lamb's wool
yeah,
garment.
and thinking sort of why bother? But of course I would.
Give it to a child that needs it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, her sentences don't often address one subject.
Yeah.
She puts many things, if you can call them sentences, but into her ideas blend into one another.
Mm-hmm.
So you never know, sure, when you say he says him or he, you
Right.
have to think, who could that be?
Right. Well, this is getting you know, I don't think it was intentionally, but I mean, this is kind of getting us prepared for Finnegan's Wake,
Oh, yes.
where
Yeah,
where the characters blend into each other, all are morphing all the time.
absolutely. Yeah. There's a
But
name for it. Heteroglossia. Heteroglossa, I think it is. Heteroglossia, is it Ia or Glossia or Glossia? Petroglossia, a mixture of types of language. There's Mikhail Vatkin is the great name in this, Russian, who died in 1975. He's a theory of language that there are different types of, we all learn, say, English or French or German, we speak that, but there are other languages in prayer, political speeches, polite speech, rude speech. They all have different ways of using words and of being understood. And that this is really what Joyce is putting together. And then I won't mention the FW word,
Okay.
but in his next book he deals with it. Yes. It's a slippery slope. I'm not going to fall down it.
It is a slippery slope. There's no doubt, and I have to confess I have slid down the slope.
I tell you, I was down that slope 8 times, and yeah, I used to do the Finnegan on the Monday down in Swedish. You know, I did duty in the shop on a Monday, and that was Finnegan Day. You know?
Okay.
So I got caught up in the madness. You know, they're going around.
I never really read Ulysses until after I had spent a couple of years wrestling with Finnegan's Wake.
With the wig.
And then I went to Ulysses.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow,
Yeah.
this is pretty clear.
I haven't tried it. I haven't gone near it because I needed to try and make some sense of Ulysses. But you know what I think? I don't know what you think, Joe, but Irish people tell stories and they splice things in, and sometimes,
Oh, yes.
And so I just think in some ways Joyce was capturing some of that, the way we don't do a linear thing telling stories sometimes.
Oh, no, we do big ballooning loops. I'm thinking really of my parents' generation. They would begin to talk about Mrs. O'Mara next door, and the day she was walking down the street, and you'll remember the way there was always be a building there, and the Murphys lived in, and you get on the history of the Murphys, and several loops later she balloons back to the start.
Yeah.
They did that all the time, and I think you're right, and I think Nora seems to be the inspiration. Well, Nora's the inspiration for so much of this. And there's a story. Now, I haven't looked this up, but in Frank Budgeon's book, Budgeon's his walking friend, while he was writing this, and he was a great friend of them. And Budgeon said he went round to them one day, and there was a row on, and Nora was saying she was leaving home. She was going back to Ireland. This is over. I'm out of here. And she had started to write a letter to her aunt to say she was coming back to live in Galway. And this row went on during the visit. And she was writing, and Joyce went over to her and said, well, if you could even use sentences and put capital letters at the start, because the letter just was like this, no gaps. And his sister Eileen, who was there, said, what difference does it make, Jim? What difference does it make? And this stuck with him in his head. And long after, but apparently that's part of the inspiration for the style. But the heteroglossia is the word to use.
Heteroglossia. Yeah.
And the other thing, Sylvia, as we're talking, the other thing you mentioned last time we were reading, like this is a man writing about a woman.
Yeah.
So it is by definition fake, and that I think people think troubled Joyce, because there was the time, in the ancient world, there was people, they wondered who could possibly have written Homer, because a man could not write about Helen and Penelope and Nausicaa the way it is written there. And the theory developed, a German guy whose name escapes me in the 1850s had proved conclusively that those aspects had been written by a woman. And Joyce used two Odysseus, Ulysses. One is the Butcher and Lang. That's the same edition. It's not the book, it's the same edition of year. But he also used another one by a man called, I can never remember this guy's name, Samuel Butler.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
Butler's is hard to read. It's very terse. And any beauty that's in Homer, he takes it out. Just, it's like reading a telephone directory almost. Why was he using that? Well, if you look at it, Butler wrote a book called The Authoress of the Odyssey. In other words, he wrote a book that the Odyssey was written by a woman, And Joyce was clearly reading around and thinking the same thoughts as you had. I think it was about 2 weeks before Christmas. And so that's all there, kind of like as a group, we're on target, I think, kind of we're on a well-worn path, we're not gone off on a tangent. So.
And I see, I can't remember who it is now. I see somebody turned up in it that was in the Dead. Somebody.
Oh yeah. It was Darcy, Bartle Darcy. Bartle Darcy, sweetheart, but he sings sweet tart. Tart is not a nice name for a lady. Yeah. She's a bit of a tart, sweet tart, goodbye. Bartle Darcy. So Bartle would be a good 12 years older now than when he was at the party down at the House of the Dead. So his voice may be cracking.
Yeah, I just think it's lovely when these characters appear somewhere else.
And Molly knows Bartle Darcy.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, that's the only place where we ever hear anything like that about Bartell Darcy, right?
Yeah.
It's in Molly's comments.
Yeah.
Does Molly ever get out of bed? Ever?
She went shopping.
To get on the chamber pot. To get on the chamber pot.
She seems to have drawn the curtains and looked out when the sailor was passing by.
When she throws the money out.
As soon as she opened the door for Mr. Boylan, didn't just leave it open.
Well,
I think she left it open and just stayed in bed. I think she never
it's
gets out
quite
of bed.
possible. A good interpretation. They seem to have spent time in the kitchen because the furniture got moved around, and the ticket that he tore up, haven't lost it on the horse.
But is there not a description of her going shopping after Broom before Boylan comes?
Yeah, the market. Yeah, the vegetable
market.
No, that's next morning. She says she's going to go shopping the next morning.
No,
so I suppose
this is one before, not the description at the end where she says she's going to go to the market. Maybe I've totally misread something. I'll keep an eye out for it next time.
I will too. I can't place it. Quite possible, yeah. But the time there's a local poet here put on a performance of I can't remember what they called it, but Ollie stayed on stage in bed throughout the whole performance. She was hovering in the background, she was always there, but she didn't get out of the bed the whole course of the play.
I think Dave was going to say something. Dave, what were you going to say?
Well, just that she got out of bed to go onto the chamber pot.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's good. That's true. Well, I this is probably very rude of me, but I'm going to say it anyway. Her whole fantasy about having sex with Stephen I think is underlined by the earlier knowledge that we all have that Stephen never takes a bath,
Yeah, he does.
never gets clean.
That's right. And how clean he must be in that particular area. Well, we all know that he's afraid of water.
Yeah, so I mean, this is kind of underlines the deep fantasy part about the whole thing.
Of everything, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of like the idea that we finished it at
mhm.
the end of the year.
Mhm.
Isn't that true?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just love that idea.
Yes.
Yeah, yep, yep. We'll of course start in January, and there's a woman who got in touch with Sweeney's that's going to join us because her ambition is to reread Ulysses for her trip for Bloomsday.
Oh,
And
oh,
and I went back and out of idleness, I went back and looked at how long it takes. It takes us right about 6 months
mhm.
at the current pace to read all of Ulysses. So,
Good.
Yeah, starting the new year. And people say to me, have you not finished it yet? I read it 3 times and they're perplexed at why you'd be reading a book.
Two.
yeah, well, leave them perplexed, Sylvia.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
I
just
watch movies over and over again, so why not read books over and over again? You
Yeah.
have you have your favorites, and I could
Yeah.
watch certain movies every day.
Yeah, if it hadn't been for COVID, I don't think I would have ever got
Yeah.
into reading it. I tried many times,
Me too.
and this is my third. I think it's my third time. I've got dates on the book, so
Yeah, I've kept the dates too,
yeah,
and the dates that we finished.
yeah.
And I had started with Frank Delaney, and
Me
then
too.
got
Oh,
up to the point when he died, and then
Mm.
was just waiting for something to come along.
yeah.
And then I got the email from Sweeney saying inviting people to join their reading, and I'm so glad.
Mm.
The best thing of COVID. I mean, if there's anything good from COVID,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
the only good thing from COVID.
Mhm.
And and I hear people saying, "Oh, can't stand Zoom," and you've no idea how much I look forward to it. I feel like I know these people. How sad is that?
No, it's wonderful.
I know.
Well,
That I have all these virtual friends.
Yes,
mhm.
yes.
There's something Joycean about it, isn't there?
Yes.
We could all be artificial intelligence, and you're the only human.
We could all not exist below the shoulders, right?
Mm,
And
Yeah.
this is my avatar.
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, we shouldn't joke about it. It's not that far away.
Oh. Yeah. So yeah. And tell me, is anybody on the 6th? Is anybody reading The Dead?
At Sweeney's or at the restaurant, the big
Oh.
gathering in Dublin, you mean?
No, I don't know. I just thought because sometimes we've done it online.
Mm,
Oh, well,
Well,
we just
we did it,
We
but
did.
not on the 6th.
Yeah.
We
Finished
did
it.
it a week or two ago.
All right.
The portrait of the artist group did it about 2 weeks ago.
The Monday group.
The Monday
Mon-
group.
Club, yeah.
I have here locally, I have 2 readings of The Dead, one on the 6th and one on the 7th. In my local library, I have to do
Wow.
two.
Oh,
So I
Right.
should put in a plug at this particular point. The next thing that we're going to be doing on the Monday book club is we are going to celebrate the entering of the new year. Since we've already read The Dead, we're going to read the Christmas Dinner from Portrait of an Artist.
Yeah. Hmm.
which is, I think, great fun
Yeah, we
Yes.
to read.
we did that. We did that once on Christmas Day during COVID from Sweeney's. We read it on because I mean people weren't doing anything, so
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I should mention that actually the reason that I started reading with the Sweeney's groups was because a woman in the Austin Finnegan's Wake group who had gone off to teach in Taiwan came back for a reading, and she said, "Oh, Duncan, you should check with Sweeney's. I think they're doing some Zoom readings."
Yeah.
And that's when I got in touch. At that
Yeah.
point, Jack Walsh was the point man.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how I got involved in, because I was only doing Finnegan's Wake before then.
Yeah.
And that's how I got involved in reading not only Ulysses, but also Portrait of an Artist, and also Dubliners.
Mm.
And
And the
I will have to say, this whole Zoom thing has really made a major change in
Oh,
my
absolutely, absolutely. And the amazing thing is that this was part of the Thursday night reading,
yeah.
which had gone on for years, and the physical reading has now stopped.
Oh, it has?
Really?
Yeah,
They're
It
not
doesn't
reading in Sweeney's?
haven't they? Haven't been. No,
Oh.
I haven't been well enough to go in, but in the last 2 months. But I've, I've it had all readings had stopped there
Oh,
Really?
except the Monday Finnegan's Wake.
really?
And
Why?
I didn't inquire. I don't talk shop when I'm there. I'm just there doing
Okay.
reading.
Okay.
So,
Huh.
we started a group of people. The Saturday morning reading never came back after COVID.
Well,
And
we
a few of us tried to start it again, and with a few people, and they asked me to go along, but it was so appalling that people stopped going very quickly. So, it was too with Jack Welch. Jack Welch had other things to do.
we started that and then moved it to Monday. I don't know why.
Well,
Saturday was moved to Monday.
we moved it to Monday because it was suddenly stopped.
Yeah.
The Monday book club through Sweeney's was suddenly stopped, and I decided, well, we'll just do it anyway because there's people who are interested.
Yeah.
We started that, and then there was this hybrid thing with Ulysses for a while, where they were doing in Sweeney's, they were doing Ulysses readings.
Yeah.
And then they decided that to have a Zoom part of it was too confusing, and that suddenly stopped. And that's when we formed this.
And this is the Thursday night. So this is Thursday night was my big night there years
So
ago.
Joe,
And
you used to go to the Thursday night readings when we did Zoom at the same time?
About 8 years before.
Yeah,
And we would have had, Sweeney's is very, very small. But we would have 30, 35, 40 people in there, absolutely like sardines. They were out on the street on a summer's evening, and it was a very very artistic moment, the hour and a half of it, because it was full of people who were actors, actresses, street artists, writers, poets, generally society's crazy gang. People living on the fringe, with not much money coming in and not caring. What they contributed then to that reading was phenomenal. And it petered out. There are a number of issues down there, but I'm going to start talking about that.
Well, Finnegan's the Tuesday at Sweeney's on Tuesdays. There's the Finnegan Wake readings.
Yeah, Natasha, isn't that the Natasha's?
Yeah.
But that's been stopped also?
No, that's the only thing going.
Oh, okay.
That's still going.
The Wake was done by a man called Des Gunning. I don't know if you know Des Duncan.
No.
Des
that's
was there. Like he was Monday was wake day at lunchtime.
okay.
And Des is the former secretary of the Joyce Center. He he's the man who got the Joyce building organized,
Okay.
and he's kind of serious wake guy, And but he just moved on. He resigned as director and he moved on. When COVID came, he still kept on his wake, and when COVID came, he moved it online, and that's where he stayed on a Monday at 1 o'clock. He's online. So and then Natasha took over doing the wake.
Yeah, and that's on Tuesday. That's on
And
Tuesday.
I don't know what day it's on now, but that's the only now unless something else, there's just no one to do them.
Well, Saturday, the tiny little
Saturday.
French Ulysses group that Duncan and I do, but it's about 3-4 people.
Yeah.
On Saturday evening, it would be there.
Yeah, there's Portuguese. They have it in Portuguese, German, Greek, French.
Yes, I'm doing the
and,
French
but there's one of the guys who was there who is now doing it for Japanese readers. He's not doing it in the shop. Kenji is this is your territory, Duncan, almost. He's he's from Tokyo, but his father's Irish, and he's a postgraduate student in Trinity. So like he was gas, like, that's what I mean by the wake being crazy. We were reading it in English. He was following it in the Japanese edition,
Okay.
When his turn came to read, he would read it in English. So there's a challenge.
Yeah, well, as I was telling, I forget the other French fellow who was doing French Ulysses readings years ago.
Yeah.
He's also a science type. He just finished Ulysses in Japanese. And I sent him a note that one of my ambitions is to read Ulysses in Japanese. But at this stage in my life, I mean, it's just going to be short passages from it.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to live to 120. So
Well, I must I probably will be meeting Kenji. I got an invitation, self and his partner, his wife, or girlfriend, who used to work in Sweeney's. She was a big volunteer there, and I wasn't able to get out to meet them. But I'm hoping to see them in January. I might ask him, does he, kind of, could you sit in on one reading or something? The odd time, or I'll inquire if he's. Since I don't speak a word of French. I got the job of handling the French Ulysses reading. And it's
they've been very tolerant. They've been very tolerant of me.
Yes, they certainly are.
And both Malachi and Mark are very tolerant, wonderful people. And I actually decided to join the French reading because I have an ambition to read Proust in French.
Yes.
And then when I found out about the French reading and that it was on Zoom, I decided to join. And believe me, I was starting from the very beginning of and I kind of stumbled through the pronunciation part. But like in I also read the Portuguese group, and we are just finishing. I'm just finishing my first total reading. We're also reading Penelope. And we're just finishing that, and then we're going to start in January. And I will have to say that actually I'm confident I could go to Brazil and stumble a lot, but within 6 weeks I could get basic business done in Portuguese.
Yeah.
And do you speak Japanese?
Yeah, I speak it kind of what I call house Japanese, meaning that if friends and family will put up with me, will try to understand what I'm saying. But anybody who's expecting high-flown Japanese, I'm not there, and my Japanese reading is very, very poor. But but I still have ambitions in that direction. And I have a massive Japanese library, which I will pick up and stumble through every once in a while.
Yeah. What I just want to just correct what I was saying to you, that those foreign, we call them the foreign language ones, they're all still continuing. PJ Murphy does them. So if you want to go Portuguese, that and they're physically still there. But English language ones just don't exist anymore until he finds someone who will do it, I presume.
Is Sweeney doing anything on Zoom anymore, or have they just discontinued?
Oh, I
all
think
the-
that's
Finnegan's Wake.
yeah.
Oh.
That's Natasha. Does she do that from home or from the shop? I can't.
No, she does. It's from the shop. It's pretty much from the shop. And actually, I don't know if you know Orla. Orla has
I know her.
reads with us. She frequently is the actual person who runs it. Dave, you have a question?
Yeah, I have to go. Is there a session next week?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, awesome.
of course.
Not on New Year's Day, but the other
Next Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah.
next Thursday.
Awesome. See you then. Take care.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Dave.
Yeah.
Are we reading Portrait on Thursday next?
Actually, we're reading Portrait on, I guess it's
Monday.
on the
Monday.
Monday week.
Not New Year's Day, but
Not New Year's Day. Well, what are we reading next Thursday then?
well, stately plump buck.
Yeah.
mullet.
Oh, stately plump. We just go around the course again.
Oh, yeah.
There is no escape.
There is no escape. The bus. This is a bus that is taking the same route every time.
Yeah, this is Hotel California. You can check out, but you can never leave.
I should show someone gave me
Anybody that wants to start over, this is the time to do it, isn't it?
Yes.
At the beginning of the year, yeah.
Great.
Perfect.
If you
It's
could,
perfect.
if you could throw the net out. But I must tell you, I was out in Howth, yesterday, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And oh no, what day was it? It was Stephen's Day, which is the 26th. And I met this young woman, and she turned out to be from Seattle. And her name was Sarah Parnell.
Ah,
And anyway, I was talking to her, and it turned out that, the trains weren't running. So she took a taxi out. So I offered to give her a lift back.
Yeah.
And she said, no, she wanted to hang around. And then we talked more, and then she told me about Parnell and, being Parnell. She lived in Seattle. And then, so I just thought, I've wanted to go out to Avondale. And I said to her, I can give you a lift out there if you like. And she said, no. And I think she just thought I was some sort of weirdo, lonely person.
Yeah, a lonely old lady. She didn't want to be bothered with you.
No, I think Americans are not we're more cautious here.
Yeah. And so I said, oh no, that's fine. But I just felt like some weirdo woman trying to lead this young woman astray. But I told her how to get a bus ticket, so that she wouldn't be paying a taxi back into town. Howth is a long way out.
that's a good fare she would be paying. Taxis are not cheap in Dublin with the price rise in fuel.
I was, but so anyway, there's some woman telling a story about this woman who tried several devices to try and get her into her car.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
I was in the supermarket yesterday, and there was a woman in front of the cheese, selecting her cheese, and she had her baby, a toddler, in a stroller. And an old lady came along and was talking to the baby and said, "What's your name?" And the kid didn't respond. And suddenly a mother turned around and said, "Why do you want to know her name?"
Oh,
Yeah.
It was like stranger danger at such a ridiculous level. But Americans are weirder and weirder that way.
We are going through an unusually weird time.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
weird things
I
happening.
had very good friends that I meet with regularly, meaning you all and the other reading groups, which is keeping me really connected to the earth and pretty
Mhm.
sane for the most part. I've always been a little weird, and I don't mind being weird. In fact,
Yeah.
I kind of enjoy it.
But this
Uh,
is a connection to something that to what's important.
Yes, Katrina.
I
Well,
think so. I think so. Yeah,
mhm.
very much. So I will, at this point, I will wish everyone a happy passage
Happy
of
New
the
Year.
year, and we will meet again next Thursday.
We'll meet
Yeah.
again.
And we will descend the stairs with our plump Mr. Mulligan, and off we will go again.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay.
All right.
Happy
Thank
Looking
you.
forward to it. Looking forward. Had a great year so far.
Okay,
Hope next year
thank
is
you
as
very
good.